The only way to get rich is to 1. Value your time at a delusional dollar amount, 2. Be obsessed with getting rich, and 3. Give yourself no other option but to get rich. That's what this entire video is about, is getting rich and the truth behind it. And now I know there are going to be people in the back who are like, money isn't everything, or they're regurgitating some shallow advice that they heard about how money doesn't buy happiness that they got from someone who doesn't have money nor happiness. But this video isn't for those who just decided to click on this video and get angry and completely waste their time. This video is for those who want to get unapologetically rich, not because you're a terrible or an evil person, but because the only other option in your head is to be valued at what the market thinks you're worth, and that's terrifying. For myself, I realized pretty early in my life that I was not okay with breaking my back for 8 to 10 hours a day to make $80,000 to $150,000 a year in a job where I own nothing, doing work I don't care about, especially when I can see as clear as day that there are people doing meaningful work who make 100x that amount while working a fraction of the time. I may not have had that much value to offer when I was young, but I knew it was possible because I could just look, I could just observe, I could just see that other people had a life that I could potentially want. And if other people had done it, then that means there is a series of steps that I can personally take, especially in this world of technology and the internet and social media. I could take a series of steps to achieve close to the same thing, not even the full thing, but I could at least have some control over my money. Therefore, I could have some control over my day, my routine, my mind, my emotions, and especially my time. And the thing here is that the people who endlessly moralize or spiritualize money can't fathom a life where they aren't bound to it. Now, the unfortunate thing with this video is that I can't tell you exactly what to do. I mean, I can tell you what I did, right? That's what anyone can do. Nobody can tell you what to do. They can only tell you what they did. But instead, I want to give you something that I think is more helpful. I want to give you 3 ways to rewire how your mind thinks about money, because that's what you need to make the right decisions to get rich or make a lot of money or achieve really anything that you want. I don't want to give you the way. I want to give you the tools that will help you create your own way so that it's sustainable. In other words, I want to install the beliefs in your mind that allow you to test the inputs that are much more likely to spit wealth out of reality as the output. The first and most practical way to prime your mind to get rich is to adopt an aspirational hourly rate. Now, this is a concept that I got from Naval Ravikant, so I'll start with a quote from him, which says, "Set and enforce an aspirational hourly rate. If fixing a problem will save less than your rate, ignore it. If outsourcing a task will cost less than your hourly rate, outsource it. My aspirational rate was $5,000 an hour." Now, this will honestly baffle most people, but I'm at a point, and I try to say this without sounding arrogant. That's kind of impossible online, but just know that I try to say this without sounding arrogant. But I've reached a point where someone could offer me $5,000 for an hour of my time, and I wouldn't do it. Not because I couldn't use the money or that I'm better than the money, but because there is time, focus, and an obligation to deliver $5,000 worth of value in an hour on the line. And that's a big responsibility that pulls my time, focus, energy away from things that could potentially make me more than $5,000 an hour. Since I have the knowledge to do so, it would be stupid of me to do that instead of the thing that would not only have more impact on more people rather than just one person, because I know exactly what to do that would make me that much or more in an hour. And that's the exact purpose of the aspirational hourly rate. It's not so you just magically make your aspirational hourly rate. This isn't about manifesting. This is about framing your mind to make the decisions that would lead to you acquiring the knowledge and taking the actions that would lead to you making that much an hour. It helps your mind notice and choose the opportunities that put you in a place of leverage. So let's imagine a pretty common scenario, right? You purchase an item, let's say off of Amazon for $50 and it's defective or it's broken. Are you going to return it? Are you going to take the 30 to 60 minutes to return it? If so, you value your time at about $50 or less an hour. Because if you had the knowledge to make more money in that hour, and the $50 that you lost wasn't a problem, then you would do so. And this is where people with a poor relationship with money just go insane. It's like, what? You're just gonna waste $50? Like, you purchased this. Shouldn't you be mad at the seller for it? Shouldn't you take it back and make sure they send you the right item? Like, to go through all of that and waste that mental energy, time, focus, attention, that's important. That is so much more valuable than a measly $50 and going through all of that just to get something. Just reorder the item and make more money than that. And I know I'm saying that in an arrogant way. I'm just trying to get the point across as to something that you could do that is a better decision. It's not a bad thing to not return an item that you spent money on just so you can get that money back or get the same item. Instead, it's an opportunity that shines a light on a more important fact, that you aren't conscious of a problem that you can solve that would make you $50 to $500 to $1,000 an hour, because if you were, it wouldn't make sense to return that item. Now, the thing here is that if your aspirational hourly rate doesn't seem impossibly high or delusionally high, you're doing it wrong. Why? Because delusional goals rewire your brain. Your brain is literally rewiring itself based on what you're thinking about and learning about right now, this video included. Every single thing that you allow into your mind shapes who you are and what you do. Now, when you imagine a better future, it activates the same brain networks as if you were experiencing that future. Every single moment of focused attention is a chance to rewire your brain in alignment with the person you want to become. That's one of many reasons that doom scrollers and people who don't actually pay attention to what they allow into their environment, both physical and digital, are digging their own grave one moment at a time. And beyond that, dopamine spikes more when you're in pursuit of a goal rather than when you achieve it. But that's exactly where it gets dangerous, because you can visualize your goals all day, and that definitely helps with learning. But you have to match that visualization with a level of challenge in reality to act and solidify that knowledge. In other words, it's being in the game. You have to be in the game if you want your visualization or your imagination to take any kind of form in reality. Because if you don't, then that's where mental masturbation comes into play, which is the act of telling everyone about your goals, but never actually doing anything about it because you already got your dopamine hit from telling people about it. The golden zone for challenge, and remember, challenge in the real world is how you solidify this visualization or this aspirational hourly rate, and that challenge is at about 85% difficulty. So not so high that you get anxious, but not so low that you get bored. This is good because the stress from the progressive overload of challenge releases norepinephrine, which enhances learning further and helps you adapt into that new state of mind. So the entire point is that you can't just think about your aspirational hourly rate and expect to make more money. You need to make difficult decisions with your rate in mind. So the best way to start is just by not returning the $50 item. You'll be fine. Now, the second point to help you with getting rich is that the concentration of force is the only way to get rich. Because if you want to get rich, it needs to be your number one overwhelming desire. I remember watching some of Ali Abdaal's video on how to get rich. It's a video of his that did pretty good recently, and just in the first 5 minutes he felt bad kind of about saying it, but he's like, honestly, if you want to get rich, then you kind of have to be obsessed with it. And when I first listened to that, I was like, that's not really true. And then I sat with it and thought about it more. And I'm like, actually, that's exactly what I did. And personally, a moment of vulnerability here is that I feel like I've been kind of hiding from that. I was kind of obsessed with making money for a long time, but I never really registered it as that, because that just sounds so shallow. Oh, you have to become obsessed with getting rich. In reality, I was learning, I was growing, I was acquiring these skills, I was becoming a better person. That's what getting rich is, for in a lot of cases, is becoming a good and better person to the point where you have so much value that you can't stop attracting wealth. So for those who have this like hang up in their mind of like, oh, getting rich is bad, right? That's just the direct connection, the direct association. Society has been telling me, my parents have been telling me, my pastor has been telling me, everyone's been telling me, oh, you don't need to get rich, you don't need to do that. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you realize and you know, what do you mean? I'm learning these skills. I'm doing great things. I'm helping other people, whether it be for business or really anything else. I'm exchanging value. But you, the one who is projecting these beliefs on me, have this notion that it's for some reason evil to engage in a mutually beneficial transaction. And I think that says a lot more about them than it does you. So we have to become obsessed with getting rich. We need concentration of force because you do this until the point of it becoming second nature to you. Think of a basketball player, right? They practice so much. They've been obsessed with basketball for so long that it doesn't take any mental energy or really any effort at all to shoot three-pointers over and over again. They have like a 99% success rate with hitting a three-pointer. And if getting rich is synonymous with becoming a professional basketball player, 50%, making 50% of the shots isn't going to cut it, right? They're never going to make it into the NBA. You have to give it your all. You have to become obsessed with it so that you can make it pro. You can still make a lot of money. There's a spectrum here, right? There's super extraordinarily rich and then there's well off, and both goals are fine. But if your goal is to get rich, and that's a perfectly viable goal because it's not about the outcome, it's about the journey, it's about who you become in the process, then that's what you need to do. You need to be obsessed with it in order to reach the highest level. Now, the question here is like, okay, well, what about going out? What about quote unquote enjoying life? What about being social or just in general chasing the Western notion of happiness, which is just these endless dopamine hits that create euphoria? That's not what happiness is. Happiness is being fine. It's being calm. It's being in a good mood. It's not euphoria. Well, the thing is, you can obviously do those, but you're not going to get wealthy because it's not your priority. You are prioritizing those things over what it takes to reach the goal of getting wealthy. And that's okay. You don't need to have the goal of getting rich, but many people do. And that's valid. You don't need to project your goals and your beliefs on those people. Someone without that as their priority isn't going to get rich. That doesn't mean that you can't invest a bit of your money into the stock market over 40 years and see some kind of wealth in your future. But the people with the goal of getting rich don't want it to come 40 years later because they realize that if they have the knowledge to do so, they can do it 30 years earlier than that. Another thing here is that getting rich as a priority doesn't make your life worse like many people think. It actually makes your life infinitely better. Because just think about it. Does a professional athlete have a terrible life? Probably not, because they're doing what they love most of the time. They're at this level of challenge. They're competing. They're playing a game. They're having fun. Their entire life revolves around their main priority, and that's not a bad thing. You don't see a bodybuilder hating their life for eating healthy food and being disciplined in the gym. That's what they want to do. That's what makes them happy. Just because they don't play video games all day or eat junk food or engage in the finer things in life that you think are good doesn't mean they aren't happy. In fact, they are probably much happier than the average of the population, because if you understand psychology and flow states and what singular focus, the enjoyment that brings into your life, then you understand what I'm saying here. The problem here is that most people don't apply that logic to business. They see a professional athlete and they think, oh, he's living his best life. But then they see a businessman who's dedicated his life to performing well as an athlete, as an intellectual athlete, you could say, in business, and you don't think that is in the same realm as being a professional athlete. Now, making getting rich your one true priority doesn't mean that you just stop doing other things in life. There's obviously things that you're going to have to do aside from trying to get rich. But that pain of not wanting to do those things are a way to orient your decision making, because the more you tolerate something in your life, the more okay you are with not changing it. So to make this tangible and to guide your decision making more, I want you to create a list of things that you just don't do. And these are things that are literally just not worth your time based on your aspirational hourly rate. So this is coffee meetings, or returning items, or scrolling because you're bored, or partying because you lack novelty and stimulation, or even things like texting everyone back on time. Right? That is something that you do not need to do. We aren't wired to instantly respond to people. And we definitely aren't wired for people to have access to our mind at any time that they see fit. Put your phone on Do Not Disturb and check it when you want to. So when these things come up, you just have to firmly state to yourself or the person involved, I don't do that. After that, you need to create a list of things that you will do. These are things that merge your real hourly rate with your aspirational hourly rate. So you study information that drastically increases your earning potential. You need to self-educate, practice skills that make you self-reliant, start a business, join a startup, push for an executive role. You just learn and you build. And the more you think about your actions now, the more you will realize why you're not rich, and then you can change that. Now, the last and final point for how to get rich is to give yourself no other option but to succeed. Because the best decisions I've made always involved using money as a forcing function to make more. In other words, I invested in things that I couldn't afford, and I learned to trust myself to make that money back much faster. I always talk about the story of how I moved into an apartment that was 2 times what I could afford to kind of go all in on my business and force myself to make more and be comfortable with that amount. But I actually did this one time before, around when my business was first starting, and I wanted to invest in this email marketing software that was like $1,500 a year. And at the time, my business wasn't doing that good. Like, that was big. That was a lot of money to me. And it deeply pained me to see $1,500 go out of my bank account to invest in something that I didn't even know if I could make work. But I trusted myself and I paid for the software. And what that did was I felt this pressure, this good stress to learn the skills and acquire the knowledge that would allow me to maximize the use of that software. So that meant learning things like landing page design, funnel design, copywriting, and those things paid off massively. Most normal people only see money as a way to survive or to buy nice things. They don't see it as a way to create pressure for you to become a better version of yourself. And when it came to moving into the apartments that I couldn't afford, on the surface, it looked like I was just another victim of lifestyle creep. Like, people still, it's actually really annoying and you just have to brush it off. Like, people see what you're doing, like friends and family, and they don't even have to say it for you to understand what they think. They're just like, oh, you're stupid. Why would you make that stupid decision? What they don't understand is that most of the time when I was making those irresponsible purchases, I was imposing a deadline on a challenge that I knew I could take on that would force me to learn skills and acquire knowledge so that that purchase was no longer irrational or stupid. I was physically putting myself in the environment of my future self and allowing time to bridge the gap. So those 3 decisions, an aspirational hourly rate, concentration of force, and giving myself no other option but to succeed, created the perfect conditions to make more money than my younger self thought was possible. None of those involved obsessing over what skill should I learn or what business model should I choose. I didn't have time to think about that. I simply had to make the decisions that aligned with my hourly rate, force me to focus on my goal, and put me in a situation where I had no other option but to make it work. With those 3 things, it becomes very obvious what skills you should learn, what business model you should try. It doesn't really matter for any of those because it's not like you're learning one skill. You don't take one class in college and expect yourself to be good. You continue learning skills for the entirety of your life. So if you haven't started that snowball process of skill acquisition and knowledge acquisition, you aren't learning and building every day, then you're just delaying the amount of time it will take to get rich. Doesn't matter what business model you choose or which one you start with because they all work. The first one is just a prototype. You try it, it's probably going to fail, but then you correct yourself. Next time you choose a different one and slowly you understand what you want to do and then you do it. Now, the thing here is that I'm not a proponent of getting rich quick, but you would be surprised how quick you can get rich with the conditions that you set that we went over in this video. In fact, I would argue that you can learn any skill in 2 weeks, and that's what we're going to talk about in next week's video. So subscribe for that. Like the video because you're already here and the button's right there. So just click it. I would appreciate it. And join my Substack, link in the description, for weekly letters on human potential, business, future-proofing yourself, so on and so forth. Thank you for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.